Hey you, and welcome to this video. But who did I just welcome? You see, you are a person, and a person consists of numerous cells. To be more precise, the average body contains 30 trillion cells and 40 trillion bacteria in the digestive tract. 30 trillion is a high number, and not all cells in your body are on your side. Within these 30 trillion cells, we find cells which are egocentric and try to take up all the nutrients they can get. These cells are cancerous cells. They arise all the time and are on the verge of forming a full-fledged tumor. In fact, we should all develop cancer all the time. With that, my name is Clemens and welcome to this episode where we discuss how our body prevents us from having cancer. We use the term cancer in our daily lives to describe the abnormal growth of cells. But in reality, cancer describes over 200 different diseases which can be very different from each other. If you're diagnosed with prostate cancer, for example, your chances of surviving the next 5 years is 98.6%. If a doctor tells you that you suffer from diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, however, then your chances of surviving the next 5 years drop down to under 1%. Although different cancer types can be very different from each other, they all have something in common. Cancer arises through a series of mutations. Mutations are changes in the DNA of a cell, but how precisely do mutations arise? The first reason why cells mutate is cell division. You see, cells need to constantly produce new cells in order to renew our bodies. Symmetrical cell division means that a cell has to make an identical copy of itself. In human cells, we find 46 pieces of DNA in the form of chromosomes. These chromosomes span roughly 6 billion base pairs, which have to be replicated by the cell. And just as a short explanation, a base pair is the fundamental unit of DNA, just like letters are the fundamental unit of words, or clickbait titles are the fundamental units of annoying YouTubers. This process, the duplication of all 6 base pairs, is not perfect and the cell will make some mistakes. So each time a cell makes a copy of its DNA, it will have made some mistakes by accident. And now consider this. Mutations do not only occur when a cell tries to divide, but also from external sources. This includes the exposure to UV light, radiation, or certain chemicals. Imagine this, each time you go to the beach to get tanned, UVB light penetrates your skin and is partially absorbed by your DNA. In this process, unusual bonds in your DNA can form, which distorts the shape of your DNA, thereby causing mutations. Knowing this, you might leave the beach next time a bit earlier and go home where your family is making a barbecue. You're offered a well-done steak which you gladly accept, and why shouldn't you? You just escaped harmful UVB radiation, you should enjoy your steak, right? Think twice. Overcooked steaks contain heterocyclic amines, and heterocyclic amines can cause mutations by sticking to your DNA, which sounds disgusting. In this scenario, you now throw the steak against the wall to your parents' horror and barricade yourself in your room. It is dark, you let no sunlight in and you hide under your blanket. You should be safe now, right? Well, no. In our DNA we find ancient pieces of viruses. These virus fragments can cause mutations by jumping around in your DNA. But we will leave that topic for another episode. So you see, mutations happen all the time. Fortunately, our cells have found different ways to dramatically reduce the number of mutations. And with that, welcome to the magical world of DNA repair systems. DNA repair mechanisms can repair most mutations. We now find here different mechanisms including base excision repair, nucleotide excision repair, mismatch repair, or homologous recombination. All of these mechanisms are highly sophisticated and require numerous different proteins. For example, nucleotide excision repair or NER can repair mutations which have been caused by UV light. In principle, it works like this. First, proteins recognize that the DNA is damaged on one strand. Then different proteins assemble at the site of the mutation and cut and remove a part of the damaged DNA strand. Then another protein called DNA polymerase comes and adds the missing DNA strand again, which is then connected to the remaining DNA. For DNA repair mechanisms, we can minimize the number of mutations, and without them we would not be able to live. But of course, no system is perfect. Sometimes DNA repair mechanisms might fail, which leads then to the accumulation of mutations. If that happens, our cells have another trick. They go into programmed cell death. Apoptosis, or programmed cell death, is a mechanism by which cells destroy themselves once they have accumulated a lot of mutations. Several genes are involved in programmed cell death, including TP53, which produces the protein P53. P53 is often called the guardian of the genome since it is essential to repair DNA. Once a mutation occurs, P53 is produced in high levels and modified to tell the cell to stop growing and wait until the DNA is repaired. Only if the DNA is repaired, P53 will stop its actions. And if that does not work, P53 will induce cell death. Unfortunately, P53 can also mutate, making it not function anymore, and if that happens, the chances of cancer formation rise dramatically. Fun fact of the day, P53 is also the reason why elephants do normally not suffer from cancer. You see, elephants have multiple copies of the P53 gene, meaning that if one copy does not work anymore, there are a lot of other copies which can still provoke cell death. Let's assume that we have a cell where apoptosis does not work anymore. This means that the cell can live for much longer and accumulate many more mutations. So now everything seems lost, but we have one last ally. There's another key player which hunts and kills pre-cancer cells, our immune system. You see, our immune system has different roles in our body. It helps us to kill bacteria or viruses which have infiltrated our bodies, as we have seen here. But some immune cells, T cells and natural killer cells in particular, are able to kill pre-cancer cells. You see, since the formation of cancer is accompanied by numerous mutations, cancer cells often produce abnormal proteins. These proteins are very unusual and they are not found in any other parts of the body. Our immune system checks what proteins are produced in a cell one by one. And if our immune system now detects a cell which has some weird proteins, it will kill it. Unfortunately, cancer cells have found different ways to hide from the immune system, and this is where it gets very dangerous. We now have cells which mutate quickly and do not go into cell death while escaping the immune system. This is the point where a tumor often forms. Then there are also other characteristics which might be acquired by tumor cells, including their ability to invade other tissues. Nevertheless, without DNA repair systems, apoptosis, or our immune system, cancer would form all the time in our bodies. Only if everything goes wrong, a tumor can form, and fortunately we now have a lot of different ways to treat cancer. And in the next decades, cancer therapies will become more and more efficient, which might, on the other hand, dramatically reduce the number of deaths caused by these diseases. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If so, let me know in the comment section and leave a like. As always, subscribe if you're new here and hit the bell button. And with that, I'll see ya.